A Vulture droid costs roughly 40,000 credits. If one credit is worth somewhere between $250 and $5, and there's good reason to think that's about $100,000 to $200,000, roughly what a real surveillance drone costs. But everyone knows Vulture droids. What about the fighters most Star Wars videos never even mention? What do those cost in real money? The conversion only works if the anchor holds. Here it is. In A New Hope, Luke Skywalker sells his X-34 land speeder for 2,000 credits. Canon Wikipedia lists that speeder's new retail price at between 2,400 and 4,500 credits. Luke sold his used in a depressed market. The newer XP38 model had just released and killed demand. 2,000 credits for a used personal vehicle. A real used car, 3.4 meters long, built by Soro Sub Corporation for local travel on Tatooine. If 2,000 credits represents a fair used car sale, somewhere in the $5,000 to $12,000 range in today's market, then one credit is worth roughly $250 to $5. That's the anchor. Every conversion in this script is built on Luke's Landspeeder deal. The methodology isn't perfect. Fan economists have run this calculation from multiple angles and landed in wildly different places. Pricing blasters against real military hardware pushes a credit toward $150. The Galaxy's Edge theme park uses a flat 1-to-1 rate. A defensible middle approach, pegging the credit to the $1976 George Lucas wrote it against, then adjusting for inflation, lands at about $450 per credit in 2023 money, which sits inside the $250 to $5 range. The Landspeeder anchor roughly checks out. Use this framework as a tool, not a law. Now apply it to ships nobody covers. Kuat Drive Yards, the same company that builds Star Destroyers, also manufactures the cloakshape fighter. The Fantasy Flight Games RPG lists it at 38,000 credits with a rarity of 4, meaning it's available, not exotic. 3 customization hardpoints. Forward-mounted light laser cannons. Standard entry-level combat kit. 38,000 credits converts to $95,000 to $190,000. A well-maintained used business aircraft. A step above a Cessna 172, several steps below anything the Empire would field as a frontline ship. 3 hardpoints is the operative detail. The Porax 38 has 2. The Mangfim 814 has 1. The cloakshape was built to be modified, stripped to the frame and rebuilt for whatever role a buyer needs. That's why it ended up almost exclusively in the hands of outer rim independent operators and pirate groups who couldn't afford to be picky. KDY priced a workshop fighter at 38,000 credits, and the market for affordable, upgradable combat craft runs deeper in the galaxy than the flagship showrooms suggest. The Grand Hall of the Traders Guild in Pao City on the planet Utapau. The Techno-Union converted it into a factory specifically to produce the Mangfim 814 light interceptor. The manufacturer was Fethan Atra Scalable Assemblies, a Techno-Union contractor building a small, fast, cheap crude fighter for local defense of CIS footholds, not Bactoid Armor Workshop. Fethan Atra. That distinction matters because the Mangfim isn't a droid factory product. It's an organically piloted ship designed to be as disposable as the droids it fought alongside. New, 15,000 credits. Used, 6,000. At $5 per credit, a used Mangfim 814 costs $30,000. At $250, it's $15,000. That is a crude combat starfighter, twin laser cannons, for the price of a decent used car. The price gap against the Vulture droid is worth running. A Vulture droid, 40,000 credits, autonomous, no pilot required. The Mangfim, 15,000 new, less than half the cost, but it needs an organic body in the cockpit. The CIS was simultaneously buying droid fighters at 40,000 and crude interceptors at 15,000. A droid doesn't eat, sleep, or require a pension. The pilot does. The math on that gap says something about what the Techno-Union valued and what it thought an organic life was worth. The complete vehicle sourcebook describes the Mangfim's thin frame as very vulnerable to enemy fire. Speed and shields were its survival mechanisms, not armor. It was a disposable fighter at a disposable price. For anyone running a campaign, at 15,000 credits new and 6,000 used, the Mangfim 814 is the one fighter your players might actually pool together and buy. The Fantasy Flight Games RPG lists it at Rarity 6. Not easy to find, but findable. Every other ship on this list will stay in the wish list. Soro Sub Corporation, same manufacturer as the X-34 Landspeeder, tried to break into the military fighter market in the years before the Battle of Endor. The Preybird class was designed for the Galactic Empire. Disputes over the weapon systems caused significant cost overruns. Only a few small production runs left the assembly line before the project was cancelled. The FFG RPG Wiki lists the Preybird at 84,000 credits new. Captain Ardif describes it in the novel Spectre of the Past as a quite capable mid-sized starfighter. The Imperial Remnant used Preybirds near the end of the Galactic Civil War because they'd run out of TIE fighters and needed something, anything, with a cockpit and laser cannons. That was the belated fame Sorosub never intended. 84,000 credits, $210,000 to $420,000. Helicopter territory, a mid-range turboprop. The problem is rarity. Military, rare. That's the sourced designation. The few Preybirds that made it off the assembly line went mostly to pirate organizations. The Harim, the Kavralhu Pirates. A smuggler named Mazik acquired two from the initial production run at a discount, named them Raptor and Skyclaw, and upgraded them steadily over 2 decades. If you want a Preybird, you're not walking into a dealership. You're tracking down someone who knows someone who once flew for a pirate outfit in the Ringley Shell. The budget fighter you can't actually buy. The Hutts commissioned the G1M4C Dunnal Lizard from Mandel Motors after an earlier commission for the M3A Psyche. The Psyche was capable but light. The Hutts needed something heavier, more armor, more firepower, without sacrificing the maneuverability their pilots depended on for hit-and-run operations in remote regions. Mandel Motors built what they were asked for, a lean, muscular ship with impressive agility and a generous weapons loadout. Canonical price from Wikipedia? 115,000 credits new, 55,000 used. At $5 per credit, a used Dunnal Lizard runs around $275,000. New, it's about $575,000. That places it just below the X-Wing's 150,000 credit new price. A Mandalorian-built fighter commissioned by crime lords for pirates, priced almost identically to the Rebellion's military flagship. The Alliance bought X-Wings for organized fleet combat with trained pilots and tactical doctrine behind them. Hutt-aligned operators bought Dunnal Lizards to hunt freighters and vanish into the Outer Rim. Same price bracket, completely different universe of use cases. Bactoid Armor Workshop built the Porax 38 originally for the Utapau Skyforce, a local planetary defense organization, not a galactic military power. During the Clone Wars, the CIS adapted versions of it into the Rogue class. The base P-38, 12.7 meters, Class 1 hyperdrive, wing-mounted medium laser cannons, according to the FFGR-PG entry, with 2 customization hardpoints and a rarity of 5. Canonical price? 120,000 credits. At $250 per credit, that's $300,000. At $5, $600,000. An X-Wing costs 150,000 credits. The Porax 38 sits at 80% of that number. A planetary Skyforce fighter priced almost on par with the Rebellion's frontline ship. The design was apparently good enough. The CIS thought so when they repurposed the chassis for elite Magna Guard pilots. Whether that price reflects genuine quality or just Bactoid's margins is an open question. The Rogue-class Porax 38 Starfighter is the Magna Guard fighter, manufactured by both Bactoid Armor Workshop and Buper Torskal Abbey Devices, flown by Grievous's IG-100 Magna Guards during the Clone Wars. Cad Bane had a personal example, the Xanadu Blood, equipped with elite weapons and a cloaking device, paid for directly by Darth Sidious as part of Bane's fee for stealing a Jedi holocron. The Wikipedia canonical entry lists a hyperdrive, fire-linked laser cannons, and a 12.7-meter frame, better equipped than the base Porax 38 it derives from. No official canonical credit price has ever been published for the Rogue class. Two community figures exist. An RPG forum thread proposed 75,000 credits, with the poster explicitly noting no official stats exist for the ship in any published sourcebook. The FFG fan wiki lists 115,000 credits, marked restricted, but that's a community-generated entry, not drawn from an official FFG publication. 75,000 feels low for a ship the base Porax 38 runs at 120,000. 115,000 feels low for a ship with better armament, better hyperdrive, and the capability to mount cloaking devices. What does the Magna Guard fighter actually cost? The sourced databases don't have an answer. If the comments do, put it there. The Tuscan 8Q predates the Clone Wars. Shopquick's Yards built it as an open-frame starfighter. The cockpit design came from Consair Manufacturing, the same company behind the BTL Y-Wing, and sold the frames to other shipyards for customization. The business model failed. Most shipyards preferred designing their own airframes. The unsold Tuscan production run went to private buyers at markdown prices. No official canonical credit price has been published for the Tuscan 8Q in any sourcebook. Game adaptations assign it wildly different values. Hundreds of credits in one system, hundreds of thousands in another. The Galaxy can't agree on what this ship is worth, and neither can the databases. If you have a sourced price from an official publication, the comments are the right place for it. The Voxai is a modified Kirax light fighter associated with Black Sun. Transgal Meg Industries sells the Voxai modification package separately for 45,000 credits. The complete ship's canonical price, confirmed by Wikipedia, 185,000 credits new, 115,000 used. A T-65B X-Wing costs 150,000 credits. The Voxai costs 35,000 more. New, it's the pricier ship. At $5 per credit, a new Voxai is $925,000. A new X-Wing is $750,000. Black Sun is paying a premium. The 45,000 credit modification package, sold separately, stackable, means the Voxai is as much a platform as a fighter. A crime syndicate with operational requirements that change week to week. Armed escort, deterrence, insertion, something entirely different. Military organizations buy fighters for established doctrine. Black Sun buys fighters for whatever it needs tomorrow. The premium is the cost of operational flexibility in a business where the requirements never stay fixed. Whether the Voxai actually beats the X-Wing in a straight engagement is a question the Galaxy hasn't settled cleanly. Neither does this script. Hupla Pasa Tishk. Shipwrights Collective built the Nantex class territorial defense starfighter exclusively for Geonosian pilots. 9.8 meters, a turret-mounted laser cannon between the forward prongs, 100 independently aimed tractor beam projectors that could guide its bolts off-axis during flight. The Legends version carries no hyperdrive, no shields. The control systems were built around Geonosian physiology, multi-axis yokes requiring manual dexterity that most other species couldn't manage. The Geonosians never sold them commercially. No canonical credit price has ever been published for the Nantex class in any sourcebook. Not West End games, not Fantasy Flight games, not the Saga edition. The X-Wing miniatures game assigns it a point cost, roughly comparable to an A-Wing in game balance terms. But that's not credits. A fighter purpose-built for one species, unavailable to outsiders, never priced for public sale. The sourced databases have nothing. So does this script. There's a persistent story in Star Wars lore spaces that the GR75 medium transport has a canonical price of 40 credits, a number so absurd the community treats it as a glitch in the galactic economy. It isn't real. The actual canonical price for a GR75 is 180,000 credits in current canon, confirmed by Wikipedia. In Legends, it's 350,000 credits new and 125,000 used, sourced from the Rebel Alliance sourcebook, the Star Wars Trilogy sourcebook Special Edition, Starships of the Galaxy, and multiple other West End Games references. Gallifrey Yards describe the ship as inexpensive and reliable, which is relative framing for a 90-meter bulk transport with a Class 4 hyperdrive that hauled the entire Rebel Alliance fleet through the Hoth evacuation. The 40-credit figure appears to derive from the Star Wars Unlimited trading card game, where the GR75 card is numbered 40 of 104. Someone read a card number as an in-universe price, it propagated through the community, and a myth gained the momentum of a fact. The glitch isn't in the galactic economy, it's in the community fact check. So let's do the math. For the price of one TIE Defender, 300,000 credits, you could buy 20 brand new Mangfim 814 interceptors, a full squadron for the cost of one Imperial heavy fighter, 20 crewed ships with twin laser cannons and deflector shields versus one very capable single-pilot machine. The CIS built its local defense strategy around exactly that arithmetic. For the price of one X-Wing at 150,000 credits, 3 cloakshape fighters with 12,000 credits remaining, enough for 2 used Mangfims. Or one Porax 38 at 120,000, leaving 30,000 credits, 5 used Mangfims. Or 25 used Mangfim 814 interceptors at 6,000 each, with nothing left over. An F-35A Lightning II costs approximately $80 to $92 million per airframe. At $5 per credit, that's 16 to 18 million credits. 16 million credits buys over 100 new X-Wings at 150,000 each, or 400 new cloak-shaped fighters at 38,000, or more than 1,000 new Mangfims. The used fighter market stretches those numbers further still. The galaxy's second-hand fighter market is stranger and cheaper than most discussions acknowledge. A pre-Clone Wars design, obsolete for decades, with no official price in any published sourcebook. The databases never settled what the Tuscan is actually worth. A cancelled Imperial program, cornered by pirates, listed at 84,000 new for a ship the original manufacturer gave up on. A KDY workshop fighter at 38,000 because somebody correctly calculated that the demand for affordable, modifiable combat craft runs deeper than the demand for flagships. One question remains genuinely unresolved. No official canonical credit price has been published for the Tuscan 8Q in any sourcebook. What this ship is actually worth is a question the databases haven't answered. The Rogue class still doesn't have an official price anywhere in the published record. If you have a sourced answer to either of those, the comments are the right place for it. Subscribe for more stories like this.